What is the goal? Is that really the goal? What are all the ways to get to the goal? What things are you going to say no to and give yourself permission to not work on? Being hyper real and vulnerable to understand what is holding you back. What is the one thing that makes everything infinitely easier if you just get it done first? And more importantly, what is the metric you're going to track? It's not just about the rudder, it's about the oars. And we're going to talk to you today about why some people focus on quality and some focus on quantity. And what is the best strategy? Let's get started. Welcome to the Rainmaker Podcast, where we help business-minded real estate agents stop chasing leads and help them start attracting business. We don't claim to make winners here. We do claim that we help winners win bigger and faster. Building your business is building your database, one that works harder for you than you do for it. So if you want to get off the transaction treadmill, keep on listening. If you want the shortcut to dominating your market, then go to www.marketmakersystems.com/demo. All right, fellas, man, welcome to the next episode. Odo, I'm so excited to see you coming into town next week. I know you don't get out of the old state of Missouri that much, so I feel privileged.
only when you're the one pulling.
Yeah,
we'll be all over the country.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying. I'm really excited, man. I'm so excited about all the great stuff that we're doing. I mean, when I say that, I really just, I feel like I feel like every day is better than the day before. And I think was the best day ever. So, it's like one of those things, life isn't always that way, but when it is, you want to definitely cherish it.
Absolutely. And I think the main thing is the fact that, what we're doing is really fun. I think that has just a significant impact on the enjoyability of all of it. It's not a grind, right?
Hey, I got a question. Yeah, absolutely. Jake, are you still teaching football or baseball?
I am. We got our first game this weekend, actually. 10 5 and 6 year olds, which is the equivalent of 40 adults.
Yeah, I learned what I learned. I'll never forget. Are you the coach?
Yeah, head coach. But I got like 16 assistants, so that's good.
Have you done any coaching in your time, Mike Odo, with your son yet?
Not really. Had him in soccer for a minute. I'm excited to get him in wrestling. Everybody wants me to wait, until probably this next season. So just kind of hanging back, waiting on that. Put him in headlocks in the meantime.
It gets real.
Yeah, I one of my biggest things with coaching, man, is I learned something extremely important, probably one of the most valuable lessons. When I first started coaching, I was really nervous. There was this company called I9 Sports, and they had really good systems for like teaching. You had to go to like the certification to become a coach, and they had systems, man. It was a business, and I don't know if they sell like a licensing to a city, but however it works, my community is like really built for this business model. And I'll never forget, I learned in coaching my kids that the most powerful thing you can do is give out a high five. And so, you don't realize how, so many kids, when they're trying to learn, and just learning in general, right? Like we're trying to learn something, and just so many times, sometimes we don't get that positive reinforcement that's tied to, the process of becoming successful is failing. And so a lot of the times that coaching opportunity to work with, children that were children are extremely curious, by default, and to like work with them and then to see them discouraged and then give them a high five and see them back encouraged to keep trying. Dude, like going from that environment to a work environment where we had 60 plus employees, it was similar, man. It was really amazing. And so I was just reminded about that because my coach, the coach for my son's football team this year reached out to me yesterday, and I just remembered being in his spot because his email said, hey, he had never coached before. So I was just curious if either one of you had, just because it's that time of the year, school's back in, kids getting into sports. But anyway, I digress.
You know what my go-to move is?
What's that?
the high five that I act like their high five hurt my hand.
Mm.
That one. They try to hit my hand as hard as they can each time, and I act like it hurts every time, and it's like a giggle factory. The whole team wants to get after it. That is my go-to move, because I mean, it's just about making it fun, it just encourages the learning.
Yeah. So with that being said, let's put our let's put on our learning caps, and what do we have in store for today? What is our I know that we're going to be talking some about metrics, but at the highest level, Jake, if you were going to wrap this entire episode up into one sentence or two, how would you describe it?
I would say it's getting clear on exactly what the single biggest thing that you can focus on that will have the biggest impact on your business and what you're trying to accomplish. So whatever your goal may be, whether that's to increase your profits, if that's to, the most common thing that I hear is I want to double my business, which a lot of times when you dig in, it's not necessarily about doing double the transactions or double the top line revenue. A lot of times it's actually doubling the profit. Or some people that aren't really necessarily as concerned with that, but they want to get more time back because they're making enough money right now. They're probably making more money than they ever thought they were going to. But now it's like I don't know how to get my time back, and I want to spend some. I want to be able to coach. I want to be able to do some of these things that I haven't been able to do over the last couple of years because I've been so tied up into growing my business. But how do I determine what the biggest thing is that I could work on? Or I could focus on what's the biggest bottleneck in my entire process that will help me achieve my goal if I had to wrap it up.
That wasn't two sentences.
Sorry, I got off. It was one run-on sentence.
Gotcha. Right. Well, here's my contribution. As it relates to that, I was I like to share stories that are happening in real time in my life. And so I have a similar experience. I actually had lunch yesterday with an agent, and he wanted to work with me at a higher level, yada yada yada. And he was going to be going on the road. He had a death in the family, so he's going back to his hometown. And he'd been reaching out to me constantly, wanting to get together. And I finally said, "Man, I'll have lunch with you yesterday." And the reason I share this is because it wasn't just the lunch with him. It was also, while being on the road, I met a lady in Miami, and I've been meeting these agents everywhere. I was in Miami, Naples, Jacksonville, Orlando, Kansas City, Springfield. I'll be in Houston, Tulsa, Portland, Seattle next week. So I've been talking to a lot of agents, and my realization is that, and this is just like, having the awareness to even know, to be able to identify when somebody doesn't know. So the girl in Miami I talked to, she made an investment in her business she should have never made. And the reason I say that is because when I was talking to her, this is what she told me. Hey, I've been in real estate. I've done this, that, and the other. I've been in for over a decade. She had been in way over a decade, but she hadn't sold anything in a decade. But she left that part out at first. And she basically said, I used to do 300 transactions a year, due to being a mom and kids, blah, blah, blah. I've kind of stepped back. Things have changed. I'm getting back into it. And what I'm hearing, bro, is like, oh, this lady's successful, right? And so I'm trying to give her a path on what she needs to do. And she's asking me, I mean, she is a seeker and a go-getter, and she will be successful. There's no doubt about it. But we ended up getting on a scheduled call because this was we were face to face. I was in Miami. I said, well, let's get in my calendar. Let's set up a time to call. And I do that with people a lot of the times, especially, with agents. If there's an agent that's looking at growing their business, doubling their business, I'll tell them, hey, go to my calendar, call michaelreese.com, schedule 30 minutes. I'll jump on the call. So I did that with her. And she got in my calendar. We get on the call. And, bro, like, the things that she was like, things changed. Like, within 10 minutes, things that should have been a no-brainer for her to invest in her business were, and this isn't like, hey, invest in this because I sell it, because I don't sell anything. It was invest in this because you need it. And she had to say no to, a lot of different things. And she was using words that were not in, it was almost like, it was almost like she needed to sell tomorrow. Okay. She needed to sell tomorrow. And I didn't believe that. And the reason I bring that up, because like everybody's goal is different. And she ends up telling me about a story about a flood or a hurricane that wiped out everything. Like the story was the same. The bottom line was the story led up to she couldn't afford it, right? Which was not even true, just so y'all know. In her mind, she couldn't afford it. And so, with this being said, I was getting on the plane coming home. I went to Naples after Miami and I was flying home thinking about her. Had 2 calls with her since, because I really do think she's an amazing woman and needs the help. But like my ability to help someone is elastic to them knowing what the hell their true real goal is and being honest with where they are, right? And if they aren't honest with where they are, like if you like one of the things, and this is why I know from a topic perspective, the question is what is your goal? And is the goal? I mean, if you come up to me and say, Michael Reese, listen, if I don't sell a house in 6 weeks, I got to get out of real estate, then I'm going to tell you to do this, 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 and this, and this. And that happened. And I wish that I could share the screenshot. In Vegas, a kid walks up to me at the door with tears in his eyes. Pulling on my heartstrings. He can barely articulate the words without the water filling up his eyes. And he's saying, after listening to your talk, I feel like I just wasted a year of my time. He said, I haven't had a closing since X. I haven't done X since Y. And so literally, I just took him through like a normal questionnaire. I was like, hey, well, kind of tell me where you are. And he said, dude, I just had a baby this day, blah, 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 blah. We laid him out a plan. And I'll forward this to you, Jake. I'll have Woods forward it to you. We laid him out a plan. This kid wrote a full-page email of him executing the exact plan in 48 hours. He set 3 listing appointments. He even gave us their addresses and followed up with us on the outcome, right? But what I had to tell him to do had to be low cost, no cost shoestring budget stuff. You know what I'm saying? Stuff that, anybody could do. But like, so my point is that we can talk about, a lot of people, they have to be hyper real. If you're in a situation where if you're in a situation where you can't afford to invest in your business, that's not my fault. Let's just start there. That's not Odo's fault. That's not Jake's fault. That's your fault, right? You have and I'm gonna be a little harsh because this is what I'm learning helps people because they text me, thank you. But the question is that obviously the decisions you made have put you in a situation where you can't even invest into your business, or maybe you can invest into your business, but you're not, which is even worse, right? And so the point is that there's no way anybody is going to invest into their business, or there's no way they're going to get a return on an investment they never made if they're not really, really clear on a plan of where they are, where they need to go, and then getting hyper real on what they need to do every single day to get there. And then the question is this, Michael Odo. Okay, this is Darren Hardy 101.
Shoot.
101 is, so now that you know what to do, are your results in your daily activities showing, displaying, demonstrating that you know what to do? Because so many people take notes and they write it all down or they get on a podcast, but then they don't turn it into, like this gentleman did, into an action plan, right?
Right.
And so without that final step, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. For me, the changing, no matter what, you want to change where you are, first you have to have awareness of the problem. Then you have to seek out the answer. You have to receive the answer. So you seek out solutions. Some might be right, some might be wrong, some are better than others. But once you find your solution, you have to receive it. You have to take action. You have to persist. And then you have to have accountability, right? That's the formula. And so most people, they don't, like, I'll give you an example. Just so you know, it's simple problem solving. A buddy of mine, I won't say his name, wants to get his real estate license. This dude been trying to get his real estate license for a year. I'm not messing with him, okay? And
I think I know this cat.
Yeah, you do know him. And so yesterday, my wife decides she's going to renew her license, and they're doing it in the state of Texas. And my wife says, this guy tells me, man, I'm going to double down and go ahead and get my license in Florida because for what he's trying to do, it doesn't really matter today what state it is. He still wanted to get Texas, but the amount of hours were different. And so my wife is on my speakerphone in my truck, and she says, honey, I just finished X amount of hours today of my real estate license. And he chimes in, how? And she tells him what she did. And he says, well, because in Texas, you have to do proctored exams. Do y'all know what that is?
Mm-hmm.
No, I never heard of it.
Tell them what a proctored exam is.
So my sister just went through this. She just got done with her final test. But ultimately, they like turn on the camera on your computer and watch you take the test.
Yeah, but that's not what this person did. He thought he had to go to the library. So he took his first test at the Frisco Library in front of a librarian because proctored exam to him back when he took tests in the 90s meant you went to the library. And he was like, he sold me that every real estate agent in Texas is going to the library. And I was like, damn, they really did raise the bar. And I've just been thinking I'm fortunate for not having to do it again, right? And my wife was like, yeah, I knocked out through all 3 tests. He said, how did you do your proctored exams? Where'd you go? She said, I did it in the island when Court was taking a nap. He said, how? She said, there in the book, there's a little website. You just go there and someone comes in like FaceTime and you do it. He was like, what? What'd you just say? Like he was blown away. And that's my point. Like every problem has a solution. It's never the problem. It's how you're thinking about the problem. And for him, his challenge was he had limited time. So he wasn't even taking the initiative to finish the classwork to get to the exam stage because he thought he had to go spend a day in the library with the librarian. And that just seemed like not a fair enough exchange for him. So he hasn't prioritized it. The minute he learned that, boom, he's on it, right? And so for me, that's how agents are. He had a goal. He wasn't clear on how to get to the goal. He thought he understood all the ways to get to the goal, and it wasn't true. And so the biggest constraint was in his thinking. So the Theory of Constraints, the book, The Goal, that everyone should read, which is mandatory reading by most MBA courses, is what is your goal? Where are you now? What are the things that you need to focus on in the next 90 days to get to your goal? What things are you going to give yourself permission to work on? And more importantly, not to work on, meaning what are you going to say no to? What things are you doing right now? Time, energy, effort, money. What are the things that are currently working? Are we going to make a stop doing list so that we can create more resources, whether it's more time to invest of yours or money to invest in your business because there's stuff you're doing right now that's not working. And the question, like with him, which it's the same principle, is what is your goal? Where are you at? What are the things you need to do in order to get to the goal? And the next question is massive action. Are you doing them? Is it in your calendar? Are you doing them today? And so, when it comes down to growing your business, I don't care what it is, you need to be spending time and understanding. If your goal is to make money, then you need to be doing activities, and you need to understand all the activities in the real estate business and divide them up by is this an activity that's only generated when a listing is taken? If so, it's servicing a sale versus creating a sale. Is this an activity that supersedes getting a listing? Then this is is this an activity that's creating a sale or servicing a sale? When you know the different activities that you have and how those activities are, the value of them and how they help you in making sure that they still do help you move closer to the goal each day, and then are they prioritized based upon, are you doing the thing that's the easiest this morning? Are you doing the right thing? And what's the difference between the easiest and the right thing? The easiest is, I got something done. Let me just hit a check mark in my to-do list because that was easy. I just sent the email. I feel productive today. Or are you dividing the things that you do every day based upon the impact and value they create? Man, this right here, this is an 8 on a scale of 1 to 10 on value creation. This right here is a 1. And you know it because it's different to, you can call your past clients. And I'm telling you right now, you can take that challenge and that's more valuable than putting out a real estate sign. And so do you know all the daily activities that go into your business, and are you being strategic And the real question is, are you doing the things every day that are moving you closer to your goal, or are you not? And the question is if you don't know, then I used to always tell people in my business that worked with me, ask yourself, is that what Michael Reese would be doing right now? Because they know that they never see me do that. There's no one in this planet that can say they've ever seen me put a sign in my car, drive out to a house and bang it in. Even when I did do it, I put on a hat and glasses, because to me that felt like, that felt like not productive work. I didn't want to, be the sign guy. So with that being said, it's a great topic, and I know you guys are great at setting goals and stuff like that. But
I think you nailed a few mental models that I just want to really crystallize. And when we decided this was going to be the topic, the first thing that I thought about, I was like, what would I track if I were going back in time? And that was what I started with was my time, right? And so the thing that really crystallized that for me was when someone said, you basically do the same things every day. You're just not aware of it. You brush your teeth, you grab the toothbrush, you start at whatever, the top or the bottom, the side, the left, the right. You do everything the same. So being aware of where your time is spent and having a higher dollar productive activity that you're focused on and knowing what that is predominantly where I'd start as far as key metrics. And if you're not doing that, or if you're already doing that, that's great. How can you increase it? How can you sharpen it? The other one that I wanted to make mention of is the lack of resources. The mental model that I've had for that, and I know you'll appreciate this, Jake, because it's Tony Robbins one. It's not a lack of resources; it's a lack of resourcefulness, right?
Yes, sir.
So how can you do it? I was in a meeting yesterday, and we're talking about the goal that we wanted to accomplish collectively. And I had one individual in the meeting. Every time I would say what we wanted to do, he'd say all the reasons not to, and or you couldn't, and it's hard. It's like trying to wade through water with ankle weights, and you're really trying to sprint. It's like, man, can we just not focus on all the ways we can? Let's try to figure out the ways we can, right? And so I know it's hard with finances sometimes. It's a lot more real than going through, some brainstorming sessions in theory, but there are ways. There's always a way. I used to joke with people and tell them to knock over a gumball machine, but if you have to, that's a complete joke. If you look at your business as a business, right, you want to have the ability to invest in your business. And as Mike and I had discussed not too long ago, if you were to go open up a franchise, my sister and brother-in-law just opened up a brand new Culver's. They had to go spend $2+ million to do it, right? And in this business, it's a business. You're going to have to invest some money. You're going to have to invest some time. If you don't have the money, then you have to invest the time. Once you've gotten to a point where you got the money, then you should be using that money to get back the time to focus on higher and better dollar productive activities. And the last one that I wanted to talk about was the gross versus net. That was a huge paradigm shift for me. The first time I got coached, and it wasn't even a coaching, it was like a agent giving me some advice in my market. He puffed up his chest and told me he made $300,000 that year, and that was obscene amount of money to me. And later, when I learned that that's what most agents do, they look at their gross, they don't look at their net. I realized the mistake that was, because if you make 300, how do you get to keep it, right? That in and of itself, if the goal, depending on the goal, is that really the goal, makes a huge difference in your way of thinking. At least it did for me.
Yeah. Well, and just think about it. If you want to make $200,000, right? How much easier is it to make $200,000 spending $200,000 than it is to make $200,000 spending $1,500, right? So it's just knowing what your margins are going to be. Obviously, if you're spending 200 to make 200, that might not be the best strategy. But if you're spending 100 to make 200, net 200, so you grossed 300, but you took home 200. That's a good leaving, but it's going to be a lot easier doing that, spending 200 than or spending $100,000 than it is to spend $1,500. I just see a lot of people try and play too much defense, and I think that there's advantages of having that mindset, but you've also got to be able to understand. I remember being in a room last year, and we were talking about return on investment, right? And people will go out and spend, tens of thousands of dollars saving money for retirement every single year to get a good 10% return on their investment would be awesome right now. where you could do that for yourself, right? And do that in your business where you have more control of it. You're betting on yourself, which hopefully you have confidence in yourself to be able to turn that in. But you see campaigns that get, 20 times ROI, which is insane. So it's just, what's your strategy? If you're doing it one way, why wouldn't you do it the other way and bet on yourself at the same time? Just a different way of thinking about it. But, I would, when Michael, you started talking about the theory of constraint, the biggest thing for me is understanding the numbers. I know for a fact the three of us have spent a lot of times in a lot of different rooms. And if we don't know the numbers, it is the least productive time that we ever spend together. And when we know the numbers, right? Like we spend all the time. Yeah, we spend all the time getting clear on the numbers. And then it's Einstein said, if he had an hour to solve, if the world was going to end, he'd have 57 minutes of the hour to solve it. He would spend 57 minutes really understanding the problem and then 3 minutes solving it. So it's all in being able to know where your constraint is. We talked about it yesterday, Odo, about, some people are wanting to do more business, but they don't know any of their numbers. So they just start putting more people into the top of their funnel because they don't understand the numbers. And then they have the same little bottleneck at the end. So the more that they put on the top, the more that they waste, not necessarily the more that they push through. So when you have your numbers dialed in to where it's like, okay, this is how many new subscribers I've added this month. This is how many have become MQLs. This is how many I've actually spoken to. Of the people that I've spoken to, this is how many have become nurtures. Of the people that weren't nurtures, these are the people that I lost. These are the people that I set appointments with. And then of the people I set appointments with, these are the people that kept their appointment. And then these are the people that I took the listing or got the buyer rep agreement. And if I had to track numbers, those would be as high level of a funnel numbers as I would want to look at, right? And if I didn't know those numbers, I wouldn't know where to focus my effort. And, I know that working enough with Michael Reese, I know if I go in and I'm like, Michael, I want help on this problem. If I don't have numbers and data to come to it, he's not even going to talk to me, right? He'll be like, okay, come back when I can see what the actual is, right? Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. So when you can look at it and you can have a real life scoreboard that you look at, and these are the most important numbers that you look on a daily basis, right? And I've been fortunate enough, and I get so excited about just how do you increase the amount of clients that you can get, and then you can just scale it, press a button and turn the faucet on more. It's really understanding the numbers, and it all starts there. So if you are generating a ton and you're not connecting with more, then it's not necessarily about just trying to generate more subscribers. It's about trying to fix what are all the ways to solve how I can connect with somebody. Do I have the perfect 29-day follow-up in place that's automated? Do I have something in place for me to actually physically call those people as well on top of that? Do they have a way to automated like a text message into a calendar where they can schedule something themselves if they wanted to do it that way? What are all the ways? And then how can I take all of my resources into solving that problem? And then I reassess it, right? Let that run for a little while. See where the numbers are shaking out now. Okay, now I solved that problem, but now I got a different problem. Now I solved that problem, and it's just this constant process that I didn't really understand it until I spent more time on the marketing side versus the sales side. And Michael kept saying it. You got to fall in love with the process. You got to fall in love with the process, and that's what it is. Marketing is an iteration cycle that just constantly happens. And it's just about understanding where to focus your energy.
So I'm gonna elaborate on that. So in 27 minutes, Emmett Smith's wife, Pam Smith, is coming to meet with me at my office. And she's an amazing person. Check her out on Instagram, Pat Smith. And when she comes in, I'm gonna literally, my business partner that I work with on for several years asked me, well, when she comes, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna talk about? And I said, well, I'm gonna ask her goal. right? That's what I'm going to ask her. And I don't have some. I mean, she's either one of three things are going to happen. She's going to know her goal. I'm going to help her get clear on her goal. If she has a goal, then she's going to have a clear plan on how to get there, and I'm going to listen to it. So, like, I walked him through, and I literally had just imitated to him what I felt like Frank Kern had did when we were in La Jolla back in March, right? Helped you get clear on where you wanted to go and what was the best things you could focus on to get there, right? And there's a new book out called Atomic Habits, written by a guy named James Clear. You should get it. But he puts out a blog. It's probably the best blog you can subscribe to, period. And he is definitely all around mental models. And he had a blog post that I read this morning, and it was why trying to be perfect won't help you achieve your goals, and what will. And he talks about this story by David Bales, who wrote the book Art and Fear, which is an actual audiobook, and I think Ted Orland was the co-author, something like that. But the point is that they talked about, in that book, they talk about a story about goal setting. And so, and I know this to be true, because think about what you just said. You said the iteration, the process, fall in love with the process. And so this ceramic teacher announced one day that it was going to divide this classroom into two people, and that basically everybody on one side of the studio, he told them that they would be graded solely on the quality of the work that they produced throughout the day. Like, so they would go to class, and they would produce quantity of pots and, clay ceramic stuff. And then the other people were going to be graded on what they thought was quality. And basically his process was pretty simple. On the final day, or the final portion of the class, he'd basically bring what he would consider like is what a scale would be in your bathroom, and he'd weigh the work of the people that were graded on quantity. And then, the goal was like, if you did 50 pounds of pots and stuff, you would get an A, 40 pounds was a B, so on and so forth. Then quality, however, needed to be, you only had to produce one pot. And you would either get an A, B, or C based upon its quality, right? And so...
Yeah, so the best one, to be clear. The best pot.
Yeah, you would just make one pot and make it as best as you could. One piece of art. You didn't have to do 2 or 3 pieces, right?
Gotcha. So the groups were split.
They were two groups. And and basically what emerged from this test was the highest quality was produced by the group of people who were getting graded for quantity. And what that was true, dude. Like, this just came out. It was an amazing post. And I was wondering, think about when I'm on the road doing workshops, when I do anything, I'm getting feedback, right? And so he said basically that while the quantity group was busy churning out piles of work, they were learning from their mistakes. And the quality group just sat around they were like having theories. I think you said they were theorizing about perfection, and and in the end had little to no effect on the actual quality, because the people that were actually in the repetition. So the conclusion of his blog post was that repetition matters. And so what happens is, in goal setting right now, nobody's good on their first cold call. No one's good at their first direct mail piece. Nobody's good with their first Facebook ad. But the theory and the difference, it's a little mind shift, right? It's a little mind shift. Like I feel like whether I fail or not fail, whether I make money or lose money, and this is true. I've lost a lot of money. Okay? A lot of money. More money than most people ever make in a year. I've lost that much money I've lost a lot of money in a day, and I'm not endorsing that, but as well as I do, I've made a lot of money in a day, right?
Yeah, I only talk about the wins. I never fess up to the losses, but I got plenty too.
But the point is that I was thinking this morning, not about this podcast, but about when it's all said and done. And I said, I'm having the best day. Yesterday was good. Every day, like, no matter how I got to here, where I'm at right now, there is a laundry list of, I knew where I wanted to be. And every single day, whether it was winning or losing, I never felt like I lost. I either learned or I won. And that's what I'm saying is that if you have a business and a lot of your, once you get a plan and you execute that plan, the people that are successful in real estate are the ones that get really clear on what they need to do every day, and then they do it. And if it doesn't work, they repeat that process. And that's why in that blog I told y'all about, it said start with repetition, not goals, right? And that repetition mattered most. And so if there's not something like, think about guys, about where we are right now, just me, you, and Jake, and kind of the small team we're working with, and think about the repetition that's happened since May of what our goals are and how we've learned and 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 learned. And to be honest with you, Elon Musk does the same thing when he's trying to launch a rocket. His competitive advantage over NASA is he can launch a rocket, learn, and relaunch the same rocket within 48 hours. NASA took 6 months after a space shuttle launched to when they could learn again. And so the problem is that for anybody on this, podcast, you got to get really clear on where you want to go, what you need to do every single day, and then learn through those feedback loops if that's moving you closer to your goal. And what happens is when you're on it, when you are on the right thing every day, the daily activity that has the highest impact and produces the most value, what happens is you get a disproportionate return of the investment of your time and your money. And so if you're not making enough money in your real estate business, it's simply that you're not focused on the right things. You might have the right goal. You might want to sell more homes. But I go into rooms all the time and I'm saying, hey guys, everybody in the room, tell me how many people run Facebook in here. And then, 35% of the room's hand goes up. And then I say, how many people know their relevancy score? Nobody. After doing 10 events, nobody knows their relevancy score. So do they check the box that, I'm running my Facebook ads, look at me, I'm generating leads. But they don't even know the relevancy score. Some of them don't even know what it is. They know they would never pay $30 a gallon for gas. And so we have to, when I say my competitive advantage is out learning my competition, I identify where I need to go. Then what's the number one thing that makes everything infinitely easier if I just figured this one thing out? Then I ask myself a series of questions. Is that really the goal? If it is, what are all the ways to accomplish it? I don't think of one. I think of all of them because it's in the essence of brainstorming. The creative mind might come up with something that you never would have thought of if you were just trying to come up with the perfect solution. You sit around coming up with one versus the clay pots. Let's try to produce as many ideas that we can produce to accomplish this. And it's in that realm of brainstorming. What is the goal? What are all the ways to accomplish the goal? Is that really the goal? And then it's saying, okay, which one is leveraging maybe one's a better way, but not in alignment with your strengths. And so one of the key questions is, okay, if that's the goal, who's already accomplished this goal? And how did they accomplish it? And then it's in that act of learning that your mind, see, nobody in real estate is successful because they were born that way. What happened was they got into real estate, they made a mistake, everyone has, they learned something, they met somebody, they learned something, they met somebody, and the way that they think today is not the way that they thought the very first day they got into real estate. Meaning they grew, and because they grew, they have wisdom. They know what to do and what not to do, and they know how to do more of the right stuff than the wrong stuff. And therefore, they get a return on the investment of their dollars and time. And the question is if you don't have everything you want in your real estate business, what is it that you need to learn?
Right? I want to chime in on that because hanging out with you and a lot of agents and being a part of really a lot of agents learning and then being in the space that I'm in, I'll have people come and they'll say, hey, Mike, will you help me? And, I'll know them. I'll be friends with them. And I'll say, yeah, I'll help you. Or I'll have made a relationship with them. And, what do you need help with? Well, I need help with X, Y, and Z. And I will break my back helping and giving them the information and advice that I know to be true that I either from my own playbook or borrowed from a current strategy that's working. And the difference is not just knowing and learning, it's the implementation. And I really want to drive that point home because I see so many in all industries, people love to learn, and it almost feels like a little endorphin rush, like they've done something. But the difference is going and actually doing it. And that's the key.
Execute.
Yeah, rant over. But I mean, I just can't tell you how many times I'll tell people to do this, this, and this, and then we'll talk again the following week. Did you get it done? Nope. Well, are you serious about what you want to do accomplish, or are you just joking? Because don't waste my time. And now, like, I'm brutal up front. I'm like, yeah, I'll help you, but here's the thing, right? If you don't do this, I'm not going to continue to talk to you and make you feel good about, the things that you're learning, knowing what you're supposed to do, but then not doing it, because it's almost like an enablement, right? There's a lot of entrepreneurship out in the world, and people become kind of fanatics, and it's not any different than getting an endorphin rush when you want to work out and buying some kind of workout equipment from TV. You hang up the phone, you feel like problem solved until the rubber hits the road and the thing gets there, right? Now the work begins. I can't drive that point home enough. What you're saying is absolutely true, Mike, but I really feel like the focus needs to be for anybody that I'm dealing with. If we're working together in any capacity, doing it.
Do it. Yeah. And I really think that this is, I wish I could take this podcast, go back to my 18-year-old self and like force myself to listen to it 20 times. Because it really just, in any business, doesn't matter, real estate specifically we're talking about, but it's really any business on the planet. The more that you can understand this entire process, knowing your numbers, getting clear on what you need to focus on, iterating, moving on, taking action, learning, fail forward, do it, make it happen. The faster you get to where you actually want to be.
So I'm going to tell you, it's funny that you said that, because you know what my number one metric is? And I'm going to tell you, and this is honest to God. My number one metric is my own personal investment and consumption in learning. If you look at my iPhone right now, and I will send you all the receipt, I am buying a course today that most people would never make the investment into. And it's solely behind the whole thing is behind. I won't read it to you, but here's a couple of the bullets. Reverse engineer your time to get more out of life. Help you tap into your reserve tank. Now let me read you this part first of all. This is a real entrepreneur. He said, "I'm not a marketer." This guy said, "I've sold businesses to Coca-Cola, Warren Buffett." It says, "My goal is simple: is offer you a program that yields a lifelong result." I paid this guy a lot of money before, and it was the best thing ever. So I was like, man, how can I go wrong with not paying him again? But I have spent my life walking the walk, not marketing the walk. I've started companies and sold companies to Warren Buffett, Coca-Cola. I've had partners, but I've also done it solo. I have both boot businesses and raised capital, and I have completed multiple. So anyway, the point is that this dude his wife's literally one of the top 10 most influential women on the planet. She's a billionaire who used to knock on doors selling copiers, if I remember right. But the point is that he says right before that, he says, I speak all over the country, and I'm shocked at some of the coaching programs being sold for $3,500 a month for people that have not walked the walk. They are marketers, not coaches. My goal here is simple: to offer you the best program that yields lifelong results. And I'm not doing it because I'm doing it. Honestly, I'm doing it because I want to know. First of all, he's amazing. Best speaker I've ever seen on stage. Best money I've ever spent. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And he's made me learn more about myself. And his whole value proposition is, let's talk about where you are. What are your habits? Let's get really honest with ourselves on what we want out of life and where we're going, which is really what matters to me, right? And so I'm investing in that. You know why? Because I ain't sitting up here thinking I know it all. You know what I mean? I'm not sitting up here not thinking that there is not a shortcut and a faster way of somebody. This guy owns the Atlanta Hawks. You know what I mean? He used to be a DJ on MTV. He's kind of, he's really funny. He's not much older than me, and his story is unbelievably. And he says his number one thing is he says, "You didn't come all the way to here to just to get here." And if that don't inspire you, that's okay. It inspired me. I'm like, you know what? I didn't come all the way here just to get here. This can't be, good is the evil of great. And so for me, it's when we say, my metric is, am I consuming content? And then the next one is, am I then producing content? Those are the two things. If I'm consuming and producing, I'm learning and teaching. And that in itself right there, whether I'm teaching my market about, the things that are solutions to their problems, or I'm teaching agents, or whether I'm teaching, other fellow entrepreneurs or business owners that just want to get customers, no matter what, I'm learning those topics and teaching them. And when you can identify your best work and the things that you love to do are the thing that produces the most value for you, which is your real estate business. And you can get congruent is the word on what you do every day that actually is producing value, and you're doing those things, you literally become unstoppable. The things that used to take 6 months take 6 weeks. And when you don't have it, when you have the wrong business model, when you have the wrong strategy, it almost feels like it'd be like watching a mall walker walk in the mall.
I'm thinking about that video.
Yeah. It's like,
what was the song?
Yeah. They want to be a Olympic champion. Everyone wants to be an Olympian, but no one wants to train like them. That's my mic drop.
Right. Well, I love it, man. And to be clear, I'm not saying don't learn. The worst thing I ever did in my entire career was stop learning, because I did think I knew it all. I was about 26, 27. I was like, man, I know what to do. I just got to get to work. But knowing and doing go hand in hand. And that was my only point.
I think, Reese, you nailed it. Am I consuming content and am I producing content? And then everything aligns. Everything falls into place.
Absolutely. And don't model what people do, model how they think. So what is your system? What is your method for, you don't just have a goal. You have to ask yourself, that's the goal, is the rudder. You have to have the rudders in the oar. The rudder is, here's the direction we're aiming. The oars are what you're going to do every day to make sure that you're getting momentum and moving. You can have just the goal, which most people just have the rudder. Most people don't row. And I don't care. You can put that rudder wherever you want, but if you don't row every day, you ain't moving.
There was a saying this guy used to have, and I never liked it, but it holds true, and it's little strokes fell great oaks. I always just felt like it was kind of old fashioned, but you think about it, every day another whack at the tree.
Well, great episode, fellas. I appreciate you guys. I have a guest coming, so I'm going to have a hard stop. I have to get prepared for a couple hours to spend with Miss Pat Smith. So, man, I appreciate both of you guys today. I can't wait to see you tomorrow, Mike Otto. We're going front row UFC 228, Darren Till versus Tyron Woodley. It's going to be a great day. Yeah, I am too. We're going to go to the weigh-in tomorrow. So, the best life to live is a life by strategy. And I appreciate you guys.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Well, like we always say, we got to sign off, right? Our goal for you is to have a business that works harder for you
than you do for it.
Absolutely.